Going into this film, I had my expectations checked in. Yes, the film is cringe at moments, but still it's bearable because of some very interesting ideas the film dabbles with. But all of it is just buried under the mediocrity. What went wrong? Let's talk about it. Hello guys, I'm Nona Prince and today we're talking about the latest pan-India film, Indian 2 or Hindustani 2 for me as I watched it in Hindi, directed by Shankar. Now recently I watched the first film which I had never seen before to get ready for the sequel, and honestly I went in with very low expectations. I've seen previous Shankar films. I know they are very loud, over the top, in your face, but the imagination is grand and epic. And after watching that film, it really impressed me. For the time it came out, which is 1996, it has those dated elements in it, but still I liked how focused the narrative was. It was surprisingly very grounded. It had heavy social messages, vigilantism, and there were some really personal takes in it with its characters. Technically, the film still stands out with the camera work, with the single takes, so many new things for the time it came out. And then the climax with that conflict which I didn't see coming. It's the father against the son, and there is no middle ground. One has to go. And I feel it is one of the best Shankar films I have seen till date. Granted that I have not seen all of his films. And it really sets the platform for the sequel to come. How will you carry forward these characters? Will you stick to the core of it, or will you change it according to the times we live in? Now, mostly the answer to this question is change with the times. But that is actually the problem for this film, because while changing for the times, you left the core behind. You just made it too fancy and too big for its own good, where the plot of what you really want to do with this film is just lost. Here you have to talk about the style of filmmaking of Shankar. His imagination runs wild, and we have seen that with his previous films. And even in this film, the way the action designed, the dance performances, the sets, it's just incredible. How can even someone think like this? There are two dance sequences which I would like to call music videos, because in itself, it's just insane creativity, but it doesn't add anything to the story. The action sequences are different, they stand out, they look so cool, but again doesn't help the story. The grand and stellar sets they created, they look lavish, something out of the world, but again doesn't add anything to the story. And in Shankar's film, there is no place for nuance and subtlety, but still so many times it works when he keeps it grounded, because that becomes relatable as a viewer when he's dealing with the day-to-day affairs, the infested corruption at every level in the bureaucracy, something we all face every day in our lives. But the moment the film goes to the ridiculous and the unhinged place, there is literally zero connect. Coming to the filmmaking, it's sad to say that it has taken a dip from the first film. Today you have all the budget you want, all the resources in your hand, all the fancy equipment you can get, but all of this is waste if you don't use it efficiently. That's the skill of filmmaking, which we can see in the first film. With the limited resources, the work you did still stands today. I actually prefer the dated elements from the first film than the cringe we got to see in this one. And those moments are sprinkled throughout the narrative. There are sequences which are shot like a soap opera, like a TV serial, totally outdated. The constant zoom when a character reacts, the unnecessary comedy from a comic relief, just cracking jokes, so much overacting, so much phonetic editing. The characters are not saying their dialogues but shouting and screaming. The loud background music, it's just non-stop. I don't even remember if there's a moment of silence in the running time of the film. Not that you need to have silence, but this constant routine becomes tiring, because what you're watching on screen is just not interesting enough. Now, credit where it's due, there are some good things also in the film. There are some meta things, like at the start when you get disclaimer, there's a warning saying corruption can cause cancer, it can kill, in the voice of Senapathy. There are a lot of animated sequences using the character of Lakshmi, the common man. I liked how they are used in the narrative. The film takes digs at a lot of things prevalent in society, the ill use of social media, the different attitudes and ideologies. We have characters in the film running a YouTube channel where they post satirical skits. Portraying that in other social media visually is well done. The climax with the chase sequence and action sequence is actually really good, which is a saving grace for me at least. And action is not just dishum and 10 people flying. They're actually using the technique of Verma very well. The 3D sequence is emphasizing the hit, which shows you what's happening inside the body, is really cool. Now coming to the narrative, I would say the setup is quite solid. It's very focused and actually stays grounded like the first one. We have this new generation fighting the social issues in their own way now, making satirical skits, raising their voice. Now a short note here, the way the youth is portrayed in the film, you can feel it's directed by an older person and what they think how the youth behaves today, but all their efforts still go to vain. There's no way to fight back, that nothing has changed in society, and it's time that Senapathy comes back. The country demands his return, and that setup really works. Now unlike the first film where Senapathy is just a vigilante. This film, which the director himself has said, they have turned Senapathy into a superhero. Not just figuratively, but literally. He is not just an idea, but a real person in blood and flesh who can do anything. And when Senapathy returns, he actually raises a very good point, which takes the narrative of this social justice one step ahead. If it was the same thing that he goes and kills corrupt people, that would be a repetition of the first film. So I like that we take one step ahead, that there are corrupt people that he will take down, but also there's one more thing that has to be done, that we all, the citizens, also have to look into our own homes. What's happening? What wrong we are doing? All of us are ready to, point fingers at others. We want change in the world to happen, but no one is changing from the inside. Now at this point I thought it's interval, but no, there are more 30 minutes to go. Now from here, the film itself divides itself into two tracks. One with the new generation and one with Senapathy. One has to fight internally, the other has to fight externally. Now in track one with the youth, they have to bring the change from inside. They have to change things from the root level. If you are doing corruption for a selfish gains, it's fine. That needs to change, and for that you should be willing to go against your own kin for the greater good. Now this track is the grounded track in the film. The conflict raised here is more personal, and that's why it's more interesting. The things it's talking about are relatable. We always like to see the heroes punch up, but when it's about oneself, no one wants to talk about it. And that is a very thought-provoking concept in the film, which should have been the focus. Now compare this to the external change which Senapathy is working on. He is going after rich businessmen who has ruined the country. And for these roles, they have casted actors with the face of a villain. There is no setup for them at all in the film. It's just when Senapathy is taking them down, we get a lot of visuals of what they have done in the past. That why is Senapathy killing them? And those sequences are so stretched out that it becomes boring to watch. Unlike the other track, there is no personal stakes here. You don't feel any emotions in what's happening. In the first film, there was a build up to the vengeance. That's why it was satisfying when Senapathy killed someone. But here, there's none of it. Here, you don't even see the point why he's killing those people. What will it change? It's never even mentioned. After every kill, the police fails to catch him, and then we move to the next one. They are just useless in the film. Unlike the first one, where the investigation really mattered. With all of this, there's so much going on, it's overstuffed. There's no time to flesh out anything particular. The logic is tossed in the air. The characters just take a flip like this, and you just feel stupid sitting there watching all this unfold in front of you. Now, Kamal Haasan is in a very fine form with whatever he got, especially in the action moments. You see the ferocity in him, but there are many moments in the film which feels like a show off for him, that he can pull off different languages. They are literally 10 to 12 minute long sequences, one totally in Gujarati and one in weird kind of Punjabi, which is the worst I've heard. You would consider it's a progressive idea to have the whole sequence in that language because you're in that state, but it doesn't land. Half the time you don't understand the dialogues. Now social media plays a big role in this film. The film depicts it as it's the voice of the people, which it's definitely not. Just a small percentage of the population are on social media. It cannot dictate what the people really think, but the film uses it as a final verdict. Like Senapathy literally faces cancel culture, which I guess a point the film is trying to make about today. The biggest issue of the film is that it treats us, the audience, to be as stupid as the citizens it's portraying in the film, and it just beats your head with every point it's trying to make. At moment it feels more like a lecture than a film, and you just get drained out by the end. But that's what Shankar is, and that's what Shankar does. There is no stopping him. And with the ending of the film, which is quite inspired from The Dark Knight, hooks you to part 3, which is coming next year, for which the trailer is attached at the end, which has some elements from the first film and may turn out to be a better one. That's all we can hope for. And talking about hope, in this video I talked about all the anticipated films which are yet to come out this year, which hopefully may turn out to be better. What are your thoughts? Do let me know that in the comments below, and I will see you next time.